This is Modern Persian Food,
a culinary podcast for today's food enthusiast.
We talk about classic Persian flavors,
modern recipes,
and embracing culture and identity through food.
I'm Beata.
And I'm also Beata.
Welcome to our show.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Modern Persian Food Podcast. This is episode 187. In this somewhat unreal political climate right now we're living through, we wanted to take a moment to simply connect. Instead of deep diving into a big topic today, we thought it might feel good to slow things down and have a casual conversation about food in our lives. With so much going on in the world, sometimes the most grounding thing we can do is return to our kitchens, thinking about what we're cooking, the flavors filling our homes, and the small rituals that bring comfort and connection. So today we're sharing a little bit about what's been happening in our kitchens lately. I'll talk about some of the challenges of feeding my cross-cultural kids and making sure that those Persian flavors don't get lost along the way. And Beata June has been busy fine-tuning recipes that start her day with a nourishing boost. We'll also share some ideas we've been playing around with, along with some dishes and flavors we're excited to try next in our kitchens. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hi, Beata June.
Hi friends. Thanks for joining us. Collective deep sigh, maybe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a pretty heavy time right now. It's so depressing. It's so depressing and sad that it feels very overwhelming.
Yeah, I vacillate between being on social media, doom scrolling, wanting to not be on there at all, and then wanting to not be completely out of touch with the news. And I just find myself in the kitchen a lot more and doing the things that bring me comfort, as you eloquently put in our intro. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like when I'm not feeling too good or the current events are too overwhelming for me, I find that going into the kitchen and cooking those flavors that my ancestors have been cooking really helps ground me. So I found myself a lot lately in the kitchen. And today we could, have a little bit of a different type of format. We can be a little bit casual about what we're cooking and eating. So you've been cooking a lot lately. It seems that you've been keeping yourself really busy with all these fun ways to start the morning, yeah?
I have, yeah. In between coaching and sort of the usual work of the day, with my free time, I have been really gravitating towards doing the things I love to do in the kitchen. Baking. I think baking is my number one. I've been getting really into bread making, and I've made baberi a number of times, playing with different flours. And I make it sort of the old-fashioned way where I do the hand kneading, the kind of like pushing and turning and the pushing and turning. And I love that. I love using my hands and shaping it. I kind of really like putting my muscle into it, and it's satisfying. The whole process of bread making is extremely satisfying to me, and I can relate, I think, back to the pandemic, and I can understand why so many people were making that sourdough, because there's something to it, the rise, the yeast activating, and then the rise of the dough, and then just the whole manipulation of it, the smell when it's baked in the oven, and then just the comfort of having fresh bread, and then also to be able to share it. I do love that. A lot of muffins, a lot of just things that I can have that are already ready to go in the morning. So if I wake up not in the best mood and open the fridge, I see that everything is taken care of. And that, for me, is a really great way to start the day. What have you been making?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to talk about your barbari bread, that sounds so delicious. Barbari, like it's a flat but thick bread that's like fluffy and so delicious, and you can tear off a piece and get a little lokme with some feta cheese and some fresh herbs in there to take a bite. That just sounds so good. And I love how you can get the big sheets of the barbari. You get that a lot down in Southern California, but it's so fun in that smell. I remember we went to the market one time and we had gotten the barbari and they put it in between sheets of paper. That was really sweet. So I love that.
That's right. We got to go together a few years back. Yeah, I'm trying to get the right ratio of flour and really trying to perfect that recipe. And I think the best result is when I use a whole lot more white flour and a little bit of wheat flour, which I'm guessing is how they make it around here in the traditional way. And I take comfort in knowing that if I keep it in the fridge and the freezer, at least it's going to become a resistant starch, as we talked about in one of our episodes. So I try not to worry about it too much. But I did try to make it with completely wheat flour. And that kind of came out a little too heavy. I played with some other different kinds of flour, like spelt and even some semolina. So that didn't really have great results for me. So I'm still playing around. And I am actually super, super curious as to what a sourdough batter might taste like.
Oh my God.
And so I've kind of put my feelers out locally here. And I have a couple of contacts that have sources for the sourdough starter. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of my friends knows the owner of a sourdough bakery.
Oh my God. Perfect. You could just get that dough and make it. Oh my God, that would be so amazing.
Yeah, I think you just need like a little bit of the starter, right?
Yeah, but like such an easy hack too, to just like kind of like if you can get like a ready-made dough and then just make it into this shape and then you have this fresh like batter buddy.
Oh, get the whole dough?
Yeah.
I just meant like to get the starter, like the sourdough starter from the baker. But yeah, I get the whole bread.
I'm trying to find the shortcut here. Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. And I think, like as you were saying, like using your hands, I think that's really satisfying when you're cooking and kneading the dough. That I think is like a stress reliever and it feels good. And even the smell of the yeast, that just smells very cozy sometimes too.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think with doing things with my hands and like really getting into it like that is it clears my mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you got to be kind of in the moment and you get in the rhythm of it and you're not really thinking about anything else. So that works for me.
That's a good one. I'm going to have to do that. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So I've been cooking as well. I'm not as much of a baker, although it sounds so nice and relaxing. I think I got to try that. But I'm definitely deep into savory and cooking meals. My son's a pretty picky eater, and if he doesn't eat enough, then he gets like really moody and kind of brings us down. So we're always trying to make sure he's well fed for the well-being of all of us. And, my daughter likes different flavors a little bit too. So we've been using a lot of ground beef. Yeah, I love to get like a nice organic grind. I don't grind my own meat, but that's great for people who are able to do that. And yeah, so I use that beef. I think the most go-to recipe of it that I have is that I make these little like kebab patties and pan fry them like a kebab tabe type of thing. I don't worry about like making it into like strips. I just really make kind of like oval shaped because that oval shape was so frustrating to me as a kid because it was like, I think the equivalent of like a burger, but a Persian style patty. And that would always be really frustrating to me. Why our family would do it in ovals, not in round.
Because you just want to be the same. Yeah. Why is ours so weird?
I know. Oh my God.
Why does ours look like a turd?
Oh my God. But I mean, like, just like for perspective, just like as a side thing here, it's very interesting because when we were growing up, besides you and me and stuff like that, it was like there wasn't this acceptance for diversity the way that it is now. And now everyone can be themselves. Everyone can celebrate their heritage and their, roots and their culture. But I just didn't necessarily feel that way growing up. And maybe that was because like being first generation or like whatever it was a little bit different. So I wanted my beef patty to be round, not oval at those days.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny because now I just like love making it that shape now.
You make kebab shape now?
I make the oval shape now.
And your kids are fine. Well, that's good. I think that's interesting to think back and realize that times have changed for the better in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I make my oval kebab. And then the thing is that my son doesn't really like the onions in a kebab. And so like, as you know, onion is like one of the biggest components of regular beef kebab. Also, juja kebab, like the marinating with the onions is really important. And so what I do now is I use granulated onion. I just use like onion powder, a bunch of onion powder instead of grating raw onion and putting it in there.
I see. So it's not the flavor. Like he's cool with the flavor. He's down with the flavor. Onion doesn't want something about the texture.
Yeah, and then something in the patty. Yeah. So he doesn't like the vegetable part of it, the rawness, So anyway, so I'm using powdered onion a lot. and I'm still getting those flavors, and I'll do the patties. And then usually I'll kind of like portion off a little bit of the beef that I'll just like add some like taco seasoning to and use that for like tacos or burritos during the week. And then my daughter loves like a pasta sauce. So I'll just like add a lot of times ready-made pasta sauce to the ground beef and put it with pasta and have that for like her lunch and stuff like that. And then if I have extra meat laying around, then what I'll use it for is like, I've been making oshanar, and I've been like just throwing little meatballs into the soup that cooks through in the soup. And I don't worry too much about making a perfect little round ball. I just kind of like throw little like chunks of the seasoned meat in there, and that's fine. Or if I have a little extra ground beef, then I'll incorporate it into côtelettes with a potato and pan fry those. But actually, a lot of times what I've been doing with a côtelette is cooking it in the oven, because then I'm not standing there like individually frying them. And I'll like kind of experiment with like turkey sometimes, ground turkey, to put that in there or mix it in to have like a combo so that it is like, perhaps a little bit lighter, better, diverse, I guess.
That's great. I'm so glad you shared that. And, the realistic, what works for your family, kid-friendly recipe, and the kebab that everybody loves, and a version that even your pickiest eater will eat.
Yes, exactly. It's just like an easy go-to. And it's such a Persian flavor, And I love serving that with like fresh herbs, always fresh herbs, or maybe some raw onion or green onion. And, the Sana Shirazi, the Persian flag of salads with its red and green and white, the flavors of the cucumber, tomato, and onion. And I've been adding a lot of dried parsley to that. So it kind of like brightens the meat and rice dish a lot.
Mm-hmm. And then your meal prep and just the smartness of using your resource in many different ways. If you're doing the ground beef, you might as well turn it into 3 different meals. So good job.
I know. Thanks. And I'll have moments like that. And I'm like, yes, look at how successful I am. And then it'll go many days where I'm like, very, very behind in my meal prep and getting everyone fed. But I'm trying my best here.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a good job. I've been bringing out Persian flavors and remembering back to some of our previous episodes of the medicinal qualities of saffron and rose. And, I've just been using that trifecta in everything. I think it's because I've been doing a lot of breakfast recipe testing, a lot of baking, but I have got this liquid saffron, my rose water, and then I have this cardamom infused honey from Trader Joe's that I've been obsessed with. And so I will make like a golden milk, just a warm, yummy milk with turmeric and saffron and just a little bit of rose and honey. Oh, it's just so comforting. But I just keep finding myself, I'm drawn to it. It's like I want to have those. I'm thinking about our ancestors and our friends in Iran. And I feel like whether it's real or not, it's uplifting for me to have the rose and the saffron and the things that historically are known to be mood lifters.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you've kind of turned me into like a rose lover too. I've been adding rose water to my like drinks that I drink and stuff. So if I'm making like a little cocktail, or even if I'm just having like a, just like some cucumber water or something like that, I'll put a little bit of splash of rose water in there, and it kind of makes it a little bit more fun. And then top it off with a little sparkling water. It makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I made sharbat the other day. It's so easy. It's so simple. It's literally, the way I make it is with a little sparkling water, a little liquid saffron, some rose water, and in tradition, they use basil seeds.
Sharbati. Uh-huh.
Well, the chia seeds work the same way. Put some chia seeds in there. It's super refreshing. It's got the uplifting flavors. And it was really fun to make. I was happy I made that.
I love that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the warmer weather to have more sharbat and some like different flavors of sikanja bean. I'll even sometimes just use like a tablespoon of like a jam, like my quince jam or something like that, and then mix it with the sparkling water, put it on ice in a nice tall glass with a pretty straw. And that's always like a fun, drink to have and things like that.
You always have good shortcuts. That sounds like a pretty fun mocktail.
Thanks.
I thought of you because I made an Instant Pot halim,
Oh,
a pressure cooker halim for the first time. And it was really good.
yeah. Tell me about that.
So healthy and simple, real basic, steel cut oats, chicken. The recipe that I used had basically like one whole onion that you slice in half and you put in there with the water and steel cut oats and the chicken. And then after the cooking time, very simply, you remove the onion, you remove the chicken, shred the chicken up, put it back in, and it's essentially a chicken oat porridge. And then you can take an immersion blender, or if you don't have an immersion blender, take like a small amount out and blend it to get the creaminess and then stir it back all together. And it's super delicious. I kind of prefer it as is without the toppings of the cinnamon, sugar, butter. That's the way that it's traditionally served. And it's super delicious that way. But
Right.
I just kind of like it the more savory, I think, because of the chicken. And I just kind of salt it and enjoy it. And sometimes I'll put a little bit of cinnamon.
Yeah, salt is definitely important on there. I always feel like it always needs just a little bit of salt. But I hear you. I appreciate that butter and sugar topping with the cinnamon and stuff like that. But it's very heavy. So I can't really eat it that way. And halim is actually very easy on my gut. So I do actually love to make halim. I use broth when I make it, and I make it very simply like that too. I'm curious if the onion made a difference, if you felt.
I liked the flavor with the onion. My husband wasn't as much of a fan, I think, because his mom's version, I think, is more simple than that. But I liked it, and it made it kind of savory. And I've never had the super authentic version that's made with lamb. Have you?
Mm-hmm. I've had it with like lamb and different like shank meat that it has a little bit more of a gamey taste to it.
Almost more gelatinous too, maybe with the lamb with more fat.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. But I've been making it, just a simply way with the chicken and the way that I top mine these days. And you're going to have to try this next time.
I know what you're going to say. Olive oil.
Olive oil.
Yeah, I tried it.
I love putting it with olive oil and then also a dollop of morabba or like whatever jam I have.
I know. You've told me that. I did try it with the olive oil. I have to say, I didn't love it that way. Mm-hmm. I just like it plain. If I'm going to do it the sweet way, I'll do the whole butter, sugar, cinnamon syrup.
Yeah.
I did try it with the olive oil, but to me, it was fine, just plain. And then I wasn't ready to go full, like put jam in it because again, I was just liking it savory.
Right.
But it was really fun to make. And again, a super comforting food. I made a huge batch, so I froze some and it turned into a resistant starch. So even better for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love doing that too. I'll make a big batch and then freeze it. And so I can thaw it out when I need a little portion of halim where I'm looking for a lunch. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love that. So anything that you have on your like list of things that you want to make over the next like few weeks or month or so as we get later into the spring season here?
Yes, when I get a hold of that sourdough starter, I'm going to try the sourdough barberry. And then I do have a couple more recipes because I'm working on a special project and I only have a couple more recipes until I will have that project complete.
Very nice.
They're all in the realm of ways to start your day out right and a healthy breakfast with Persian flair. So stay tuned for more on that. Yeah. What do you have on your roster?
I love that. That sounds great. I think I want to play a little bit with tagine. I love tagine. It's such a showstopper of a dish. It's so beautiful. I love topping mine with different jeweled toppings of, like whatever dried fruit I have or barberries and slivered almonds and pistachios and saffron and butter and really covering the top of the tagine, making it look so beautiful. But I'm looking to make a little bit more of a easy throw together, yet super delicious. My gripe with tagine sometimes when you use like chicken breast is I feel like it really dries it out. And so I'm like, I want to play around with like thigh and just trying to put like maybe some other ingredients in there. And now I'm just, as I'm talking to you and looking at you, I'm remembering that you did some tagine with different grains. Is that right? Didn't you do that like a few months ago?
I have, yeah. Lots of times. Yeah, I have experimented with using white quinoa mixed in with the rice. And it does kind of make it drier, but I'm okay with a more dry tagine because I'm going for like the crunchy tatting edge. However, as you were describing it, I was just remembering, I'm always making things healthier for the day-to-day family. But when I go back and make an authentic tatching with all of the butter and all of the eggs, it is so freaking delicious. It's so, so good. So every once in a while, I just throw everything to the wind and I just say, you know what? I want a real tatching, and I make it the real way.
Yeah. And then the way that I was taught, my aunt is like famous for her tatching, and she taught me, and I have her recipe up on my blog as in addition to a more easier throw together version that I do as well. But I was always taught to use a ton of saffron when you make the tatching, so much so that when you open the door or your guests open their door, they're like, hit by the smell of saffron. So it's fun. My kids like saffron. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can make it like this, and so that they will eat it. And again, I'm trying to just find easy ways that I can keep everyone fed and just continue those flavors, those rituals, the ceremonies surrounding Persian food, always having fresh herbs on the table, and, having sumac and saffron is like such a common part of our lives. My husband, as you know, is not Persian, so we don't want to lose culture. We're so lucky to have so much culture. So anyway, trying to keep it all alive here.
Yeah, good job. Well, I love these kinds of conversations, our coffee date, tea time episodes. So thank you for loosening up with me here and talking about what we've been doing in the kitchen. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Beata June. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and our prayers and good thoughts with the people of Iran and in Iran. And until next time, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their spring.
Absolutely. Thanks, Beata June. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Beata and Beata. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app, or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and see you next time.